Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tackling an invisible crisis that's literally threatening the entire global AI boom. I mean, think about it. Behind every new language model, every autonomous system, and every huge breakthrough in generative AI, there's a physical reality we usually just gloss over. Software, no matter how mind-blowing, needs hardware to run. And right now, the world's biggest tech companies are running completely out of the physical hardware they desperately need. So today we're decoding the massive, multi-year strategy meant to solve this exact problem, Micron's historic mega project.
Okay, let's dive into this. $250 billion. Just hold that number in your mind for a second, because we aren't talking about a hyped-up software valuation or some theoretical market cap. We are talking about a physical, colossal-scale capital investment. This is the staggering amount of money Micron Technology is committing to a structural program designed to build, modernize, and scale advanced memory chip manufacturing entirely within the United States. It's a total foundational shift in how the tech industry operates.
Section 1. The AI hardware bottleneck and the resulting hardware shortages. So, to understand why any company would commit $250 billion to this, we really have to look at the core problem. Enterprise AI hyperscalers, think giants like NVIDIA, Microsoft, and Apple, are essentially starving for a very specific type of hardware known as high bandwidth memory, or HBM for short. Without it, the rapid commercial expansion of large language models and autonomous software systems just hits a brick wall. To train these incredibly complex models, HBM solves the data speed issue by stacking memory layers vertically. It's kind of like building a high-speed data skyscraper. Because of the AI explosion, these specific components went practically overnight from standard commodities to items of immediate strategic shortage.
Which brings us to a massive structural flaw in the tech ecosystem. Looking back at the old global logistics model following 2021, global bottlenecks and international trade tensions exposed a severe vulnerability. We had a huge over-reliance on overseas production hubs like Taiwan for advanced memory modules. But then, look at the AI-era reality. You simply cannot have massive localized hardware shortages when you're trying to scale up AI software immediately. The old global supply chain just cannot support the explosive, urgent hardware demands of today's enterprise hyperscalers.
Section 2. The $250 billion solution and the shift to localized manufacturing.
That global vulnerability is exactly what triggers this massive solution. The urgency of this physical deployment really accelerated in July 2026. Why? Well, driven by an unprecedented 346% year-over-year surge in revenue, Micron's leadership formally hit the gas on their manufacturing roadmap. The market was absolutely screaming for more hardware, so they added another $50 billion to their prior commitments, pushing the total massive commitment to that staggering $250 billion figure through 2035.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that this massive pool of capital isn't just going into one giant pot. $150 billion is allocated to constructing and equipping heavy fabrication plants, or fabs. Another $50 billion is dedicated to a primary research and development hub to really accelerate hardware engineering. And the final $50 billion? That's slated for facility modernization, basically upgrading existing factory architectures to handle these advanced packaging chip formats.
Let's map out exactly where all this concrete is actually being poured. The strategy spans multiple states. In Clay, New York, they're building up to 4 high-volume megafabs. This is going to create the largest single semiconductor manufacturing site in the entire country. Jumping over to the west, the central R&D hub will be located in Boise, Idaho, which centralizes advanced memory development. Meanwhile, back on the East Coast, existing operations in Manassas, Virginia are getting massive upgrades. We're talking about monumental physical infrastructure expanding across the American landscape.
Section 3. Building the domestic ecosystem for a secure supply chain.
But here's the thing. Building massive factories isn't enough if you don't have the raw materials to run them. The project anchors itself through a smart mix of public and private funding. Micron is pulling up to $6.4 billion in direct federal support from the CHIPS and Science Act, issued through the Department of Commerce to subsidize initial setup and construction costs. At the same time, they're deploying capital outward, like a $500 million strategic injection into component partners such as Global Wafers. This ensures that the essential 300mm silicon wafers needed to imprint circuits are produced domestically, right near Micron's own facilities.
Let's walk step by step through the intended chain of cause and effect throughout the global tech industry. Step 1. The $250 billion in capital is injected. Step 2. The mega fabs and local supplier ecosystems are constructed. Step 3. By 2027, massive scaled production of high-bandwidth memory and DRAM chips hits U.S. soil. Step 4. This directly cuts silicon procurement and logistics shipping bottlenecks. Step 5. AI hyperscalers secure the stable domestic hardware allocations they desperately need. And finally, Step 6. Core AI infrastructure achieves geopolitical insulation from international trade shockwaves.
The ultimate macroeconomic goal of all this groundwork comes down to one single number: 40%. By 2035, the objective is to increase the volume of dynamic random access memory, or DRAM chips, manufactured directly within the United States to 40% of Micron's total global output. Guys, it's a massive rebalancing of the global technology scale.
Section 4. The industry ripple effect and its practical implications.
So, what does this all mean for you working in the tech ecosystem today? Well, if you're a data center operator, you can secure physical memory chips closer to home, which radically lowers transit times for server upgrades. For supply chain managers, you gain long-term take-or-pay purchasing structures, which stabilizes component pricing and makes your long-term budgets highly predictable. For regional workers, this expansion creates over 90,000 direct and indirect STEM jobs and apprenticeships, turning local labor into precision semiconductor operators. And if you're an AI software developer, this gives you hardware stability. You get a steady domestic supply so your cloud providers can continuously scale compute networks without hitting hardware-induced development pauses. It's a real game changer.
It all sounds like a perfectly engineered machine, right? Yes, but we have to ask the hard question. What if the AI infrastructure bubble pops before 2027? Building clean rooms requires years of forward preparation, so it's absolutely crucial we take a moment to look at the very real, massive risks involved in a project of this scale.
Section 5. The mega project risks and structural limitations. So the crucial point is, we need to understand the operational vulnerabilities threatening this $250 billion machine.
This is not a guaranteed victory lap. Despite the unprecedented budget and government support, several critical structural limitations and operational vulnerabilities still persist. Let's detail these out. First, demand volatility. If the AI spending wave slows down before factories open in 2027, Micron faces massive overcapacity and severe asset depreciation. Second, supply-demand mismatches. Because factories take years to build, this plan offers absolutely no immediate relief to today's current hardware deficits. Third, execution delays. Expanding across state lines leaves timelines highly vulnerable to environmental permitting issues or local power grid capacity shortages. And lastly, labor bottlenecks. Operating leading-edge semiconductor fabs requires highly specialized engineering skill sets. If regional talent shortages occur, factory output could be severely bottlenecked, even if the physical factories are fully built and ready to go.
Let's review the aggressive multi-year evolution of this plan, and this brilliantly illustrates how we got here and where we're going. In 2021, global supply vulnerabilities were painfully exposed. Fast forward to July 2026, and the capital officially scales to a monumental $250 billion. By 2027, targeted physical production is slated to open, finally transitioning from paper plans to physical chips. And lastly, by 2035, the targeted expansion completion aims to hit that 40% domestic production mark.
We've seen the scale, the strategy, and the immense risks of Micron's $250 billion mega project. It's a bold, historic attempt to rewrite the global hardware supply chain from the ground up. But it leaves us with one final, unavoidable thought to consider as this all plays out over the next decade. Can the physical build-out of domestic tech independence actually keep pace with the sheer exponential speed of AI innovation? Thank you for joining me for this explainer. I hope this helped decode the massive hardware engine powering our AI future.